Folks, we are live.
Hey, how's it going? This is Dustin Garman, and of course, you got my co-host. And today's episode, we have a awesome guest, and I will say this myself, just returning into the game. I hadn't got to talk to him much, but hey, if I don't really know that, if I don't know much about him, that's what tell us about yourself is for. And my guest today is none other than Ron Hogue the Third, aka Split.
Hi, everybody.
How's it going, buddy?
Oh, it's going. It's another day in paradise.
But I was gonna mention just before we start. Sorry, I forgot to tell you, Split. I just wanted to congratulate the ones that were in the tournament for the Veterans Day tournament this past Saturday. That was an awesome belt, just looking at it. And also continue to remember Bob Dunn as I try to keep it updated every show. But another than in other news, how's it going, Split?
I mean, it's going. It's another day at the circus, and we blame Pat Mulligan every day for the reason I'm still here.
Now, just to get into today's topics, man, I'm gonna like I was telling you before the show started, man. I made a kind of like a split personality character years ago with the Devil's Reject, GPS, and True American Guy, Gregory Patrick Scott. Now, granted, when your competitor come out, I loved it, and the fact is, I love that it's all one character. It shows the split personality, not just the name, but with the gimmick and the finishes itself. Because for me, it's hard to do two separate characters and try to connect them. Yours, I fell in love with, man. I built it as soon as it came in. How did Split come about?
So, Split came about 5 years ago. So I've been into haunted houses. I'm actually a manager at a haunted house. I'm a haunt worker. I've been my whole life. On and off. And a buddy of mine said, "Hey, we're doing a show tonight. Why don't you come up?" And I did. And I wasn't a clown at this point. I was everything but. So only Pagillo. So when once we got back to once it was done, he pretty much said, "Hey, look, I run this clown group out of Western Pennsylvania. Are you interested in joining?" And I said, "Yeah." So I joined the group. Some stuff happened. The group kind of shut down, and then he and I decided that we were going to start our own group. So we effectively revamped it, and we became a clown troupe, and we would travel to different haunted houses. And so Split is me. It's my personality. I was in the mental health field for a long time. We were talking before, and I didn't get a chance to tell you that. But I majored in psychology, or minored in psychology, majored in human services, deal with, different mental health myself. So I just kind of rolled it all into one and threw it out there, and it just kind of is where it's evolved.
That is very interesting because you're talking about psychology and stuff like that. Now, my characters, I went with the split thing, but mine was more of a anxiety thing. Like GPS, I use symbolism when I make characters. Like I put as the straitjacket as describing my anxiety, like when it holds me down in a way. And then I use Gregory Patrick Scott as when I'm uplifting and I feel like I'm at a high low or high, when I'm at a high, I should say high rise. So it's really interesting when you put it that way. And it, we have so many similarities just by talking the past minute. And then
I
you
have
talk about
bipolar
haunted
disorder,
houses.
and
So
Well, I mean, so I deal with bipolar disorder. So the concept behind Split is this character who goes through these extreme highs and extreme lows. So one minute I can be, laughing, having a good time. The next minute I want to destroy everything that's in front of me, and it always ends with a good laugh and a smile. So
that's really interesting.
See a lot of that in every single promo that, especially some of the ones that we've seen recently. We've definitely seen more of those low in at the start of it, but it always ends on that high.
yes, and Chibi, I heard your message a couple weeks ago loud and clear, and I loved every minute of it.
Chibi, do you have any topics you'd like to discuss real quick?
Well, as always, I'd like to start off with Ron. You make some of the most amazing masks that we've seen in the LFF and in Super Show in general. How did you start? How did you become a mask, or all of it?
So it started out as a collector. Collecting got really expensive, and I realized that I could do a lot of the work myself. So just through YouTube, being in the haunt industry, kind of wanting to learn, I got into a group on Facebook, and through that group, I spoke with, I met a couple of guys, a guy named Alan Hough who runs his own company, but his goal is to teach people how to do things. And so I've kind of networked, and it started out, with something as simple as this. This is actually one of the very first ones where I would buy them blank and paint them. And now we're at the point where I have my own company, and we sculpt, and we make masks and sell them. And it's gotten pretty good over the last couple of years.
I'm gonna have to really check you out. I like the whole, you were talking about haunted houses and stuff. That's right up my alley. You're like, I've enjoyed this past 5 minutes. I'm not gonna lie.
It's been more than 5 minutes in the chat before that, but it's enjoyable nonetheless. So let's look at some of the questions that's been. So Neko, he gave a little how Split came to be. You might have missed a little bit of it if you just say the bullet points again.
Yeah, so pretty much a buddy of mine asked me to come and work at a haunted house with him. I did before I became a clown. Through that, I networked with him. We started our own official clown company. I've since had a couple of offers to be a professional clown outside of my regular job. And it just kind of all through meeting people that are in the SRG, and then working with Boss and Bob Dunn, he Split seems to have become a mainstay around here. So,
and the Italian Bombata would like to ask, what's your favorite thing you've created not for you?
Not for myself. I would have to say the skill tokens that I made for several people, including Bombata. He has a tendency to show them off. Boss reached out and asked if I could make skill tokens, which I do, the metal ones, and I actually have made several sets of custom skill tokens with logos on them for people, and those are some of my favorite things that I've made. The Friends mask was another thing I really enjoyed making.
So you're the friend. Well, in that incarnate.
Yes, he's my friend. I mean,
that's interesting. I didn't even know that. That's pretty dope. I'm definitely gonna have to hit you up though. I'd like to check out some of the stuff that you make.
Absolutely.
Lucky Cat Nico would like to know what your favorite horror movie is.
Ooh, that's hard. There's so many different levels of horror. I would have to say my favorite of all time is still going to be A Nightmare on Elm Street. The original is probably my favorite. I do love me a good Jason movie. I think the Jason remake, and actually I've been really partial to a lot of the remakes. I like the Jason remake, making him a little more human. You got to kind of understand the psychology behind him. I also like Rob Zombie's Halloween remake. I know I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for that, but that's okay. I like delving into the thought process behind why these characters do what they do. They're not just these random monsters that show up out of nowhere.
That my favorite all time is, dude, we have a lot in common actually. I mean, I collect a lot of horror stuff as well. I actually have a Rob Zombie signed mask from when he remade Halloween. I collect a lot of masks myself and memorabilia, I should say. But I would say Nightmare on Elm Street's mine too. So.
And now that you're telling about it, I would like to ask, how did you find out about?
Okay, so that's a good story. So I met the Oracle before I knew she was the Oracle, and we worked together at the haunted house that I'm a manager at. We actually both were, and she was like, you should try to play this game with us. And I was like, I don't have the time or the money to get into a game. I've got 4 kids. I've got a full-time job. I run 2 businesses. And she was like, so I started making gear for the firing squad. That was how I really got into it. And just through that, I kind of slowly got into it. Tim Kreiser made me a deck. He said, here, take this and learn how to play. And I just slowly fell in love with it. And then over Christmas last year, I sent some custom made D1, D2, D3 masks to the boss. And he actually met him in person, gave him one first. And then I made the other 2 for him later. And I just kind of fell in love with the community. And I mean, I love the game. I love, now that I'm in the game, I love it even more, a little selfish there. But it definitely, it's the community. It's more than the game. It's the people. Bombato was one of the first people outside of the firing squad that I ever met, and he absolutely wiped the floor with me day one. And I've loved him as a brother ever since.
Well, definitely shows that he's showing you some love by asking you some fun personal stuff. Neko also would like to know, what was the first competitor you ever learned to play with?
Oh, D3. Actually, no, that's a lie. D2 was the first competitor. And I had built a D2 deck, fell in love with it. That's actually how I met. So we were at Steel City Con, and that's when I met Boss and I met Bombata. We were doing a tournament, and I forgot to put Kissing Booth in my deck. And when I realized it was too late. I had already gotten destroyed by Bombata and a couple of other people. And I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to play anymore. I quit. Like, I'm terrible at this. And he was like, no, he's like, just stick with it. He's like, you just got to pay attention to things. So, it was the encouragement and, just continuing to stick with it. And then, between the CCW, can't give them guys enough love. The big guy, one of my favorite people. I mean, treated me and my kids like royalty. It's been great. So, I just, everybody, I mean, I can't say a bad word about really anyone in the community.
That is always good. Because I can say a couple of bad words about some people. Right, Schmidt?
Listen, Schmidt was the second competitor I ever used, in all fairness.
That's a very good competitor, definitely.
It's really cool. It's really cool that you like D2 also, because that was one of my first competitors I ever played with. I used to run him like nonstop back in the day. I loved D2.
Yeah, but they broke my heart. They took him out. I'm glad they're re-releasing D2.
Well,
So I can't wait to. You're right, but I can't wait to back the Kickstarter and get myself my clown posse back together and start using them again.
I cut mine way before the Tornado came out. I think I cut mine back when they started making the spectacles were like the unstoppable. Like, I think, the instant win, and I was thinking everybody would run it. So I cut mine a long time ago. It broke my heart. It really did.
Nico also says, seeing Split start so many rivalries this year, who's one person you absolutely 100% want to start a rivalry with who you haven't done thus far?
Oh, that's hard. You know, the person that I'd like to start a rivalry with, but you see, the hard thing is starting rivalries with someone that you know is going to absolutely wipe the floor with you. I mean, I'm willing to say this out loud and on camera. I would love to do a rivalry with Press One P, but see, when it comes to the gameplay, he's above. I mean, he's one above everyone else. So the gameplay aspect, I don't know if I have a chance. But I mean, I don't think I've ever seen P get on a microphone before. So we already know who wins that battle. So it's a little bit of a give and take there.
He definitely only does the I am the best, adore me kind of promos with everyone else beneath him. He doesn't really promo. But yeah, no.
Well, I mean, but
He,
somehow he still sits at the top of the mountain. So
Play definitely helps with that.
And we were talking about it before the show. I would love to start seeing like you're promoing. That's awesome. I would love to start seeing a whole lot more, promos and stuff coming out. Like I know back in the day we used to a lot. I would love to see more characters come out and build rivalries.
So another question that I had for Ron. What in these, what is it now, 2 years, 1.5 that you've been a part of the community, what has been your favorite moment?
So my favorite overall moment in Super Show since I've been around was probably. So I have two personal favorites. My own personal favorites were the intergalactic title match that I won, although it started a storm that I wish hadn't been started. It made a lot of people mad. But that was one. Winning Bob Dunn's creative competitor was probably the highest point for me. But I think overall, going to Origins this past year, being in person in my first con, meeting Mark Perry, who showed me around, really gave me the ropes. Meeting Doug finally, or Eddie Fury in person. Meeting everybody. That was the highs for me. But again, I don't think I really have any lows. I just want to show up and put on a show and make everybody, put a smile on people's faces for real. That's the goal each week.
I think that's the goal for all of us when we're having fun like this. And even though there was a shitstorm of such after the intergalactic birdcage fiasco, it still ended up entertaining. It's definitely.
Oh no, it definitely. Listen, so Danny Thunder and I sit on opposite sides of the fence a lot of times. I didn't 100% know what the storyline was when that happened. All he said to me was, whoever wins, there's going to be a story that happens, and this is what you're going to do. And so when I won, and then everybody was like, well, how did he get that? What happened? And I'm like, I don't know. All I know is that I'm supposed to get that at some point. I don't know how this is going down. And so people were upset with him. People were upset with me. And so finally I was like, listen, this is supposed to be fun. I don't need the stress of it. And it worked itself out, and it was fun. And I was the champion until Yaz wiped the floor with me. And like I said, my gameplay is not my strong suit. I'm still working on that. But again, it's been fun. Win, lose, or draw, it's fun. I haven't walked away yet because the community is what keeps me going.
That is. All right. And speaking of community, Candyman has shown up and is asking the hard questions. She asks, Candyman or Candyman Dan, which do you prefer?
Whew.
Choose wisely.
Look, I've learned one thing playing a split. It's always best to be backed by the rack.
There we go.
Okay.
That's a Candyman. The Echo also goes, so far in the universe, it seems like Split adopted a chaotic role, not really heel and not really face. Do you intend for Split to lean one way or another, or remain the chaotic?
No, he's definitely always going to be chaotic neutral. He's the Split is what I've always called the anti-hero. He's the anti-Joker is what I want to call him, because a lot of things based upon the Joker's character. It really is. That's the clown, all of that fun stuff. But I just want to come in, cause havoc, make people smile and leave. Like, that's it. That's the character in a nutshell.
Which is definitely an interesting character because he can be the bad guy when he needs to be the bad guy for the face, and he can be the face when he's going after those that are even worse.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have the billions and billions of Splitiots behind me.
Splitiots.
Awesome. We need to get that trending.
Hashtag Splitiots.
Yeah.
Candyman also would like to know favorite movie in general, and what other country would you want to live in?
Okay, so favorite movie in general. I think I've watched it more than any other movie. Probably The Shawshank Redemption.
Very good.
Nice. I guess it runs a real close tie with The Goonies. You know, gotta be a Goonie. But I think the other country I'd love to live in, I really, really like Bermuda. Yeah, Bermuda was a beautiful place. It was fun. There was so much to do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love living in Western Pennsylvania, but nothing like getting off a cruise ship and walking into Bermuda and just having a blast. And I don't know if I want to live somewhere else, but I definitely want to keep seeing the world.
I would always be scared of hurricanes. They just get.
Listen, the clown walked into the Bermuda Triangle and walked right back out, and the Bermuda Triangle said, "See you later." So
fair enough. All right. So getting onto a little lighter bit of questions. I know that they haven't been asked because usually they're asked, but those people aren't here today. So we got the normal one of horse or shark.
Definitely shark.
Definitely. Okay. And then we have the normal one of pineapple or sheep.
Ugh. I want to go sheep because I got beat by a pineapple this past week, but I mean, I'm definitely going to have to go pineapple because, man, did he give it to me. And although the trash man's got it coming, so I want to put that out there now. Okay. Messing with the video feed on me, huh, trash man?
And then Neko has cat or dog.
Oh, Neko, that's not fair. Oh, okay. So I got to do this. I have to say dogs because I'm a dog person, but I will say that Neko is my favorite lucky cat.
Oh. But that is a very steep cop out, but a completely understandable.
Why?
Listen, it's two sides to the same clown. I mean, come on. I always tease Neko and say that cats are really good for one thing, and that's General Tso's chicken.
Okay. Darn it! I lost my question.
I'm gonna ask you a quick because we were similar on this as well. We've had a lot of similarities, more than I actually thought, to be honest. All right, so earlier we were talking about like your favorite horror movie, and you chose Nightmare on Elm Street, which is actually my favorite. My opinion is it's the best way. I think he's got the most brutalist way of killing. Is that a reason why you like it, or?
No. So my reason behind it is I've always been. So I have narcolepsy, and so I don't sleep well.
Okay.
And so when I do sleep, I sleep hard, and I don't normally fall asleep. So I'm up all night long. 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning every single day. And I think that part of that is because like I'm always afraid something's going to happen in the evenings that I'm not going to be around for. So it's just the idea of like things happen to you in your sleep and you don't have control over it. And I like to be in control.
I got you. Yeah, I was interested in that because I was like, wait a minute. Because my thing is, I think it's just scary enough to think that, like Jason and all the others, you can just run away from. No, I mean they catch up to you in the movies, but thinking of Freddy, you're there asleep. You're in his world,
But what's nice about Freddy is once you realize that he doesn't have the power he only has the power that you give him.
Yeah.
So when you realize that you're just as powerful, you just have to use your own, your own bravery, your own thought process. You can use that against him. Like that's what I liked about it. It wasn't that I had to be bigger or stronger or better. I could make myself on the same playing field. I just had to be a little wittier than he was. His thought, he was always smarter than everyone else.
Well, there's a couple of movies that kind of put him in other figures, but
I'll say the remake doesn't count. That's one of the few remakes I didn't.
I didn't like it either. I actually made a post. I put the first Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger, of course, Robert Englund, and then I put the new remake
Jackie
version.
Haley.
Yeah, I put what you order on Wish compared to Amazon.
That's funny.
okay. So you said that you've also been a clown for haunted houses.
Yes.
What like how much have you traveled to some of these haunted houses? Or are they all just local for you?
So the furthest that when I don't have children under the age of, when my kids are older, I would love to travel. Some of my kids like them. Most of the stuff that I do is local. I work them right now. So I don't have the time to, every weekend I'm out scaring, I'm building, I'm creating. So I don't have a lot of time to travel. I think Ohio, was probably the furthest I've gone. I've seen some really good ones in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. One out in the Lancaster area. So mainly local, but I want to go to Florida and do Universal. So I mean there are places all over the country I'd love to go, but it's either cons for Super Show or haunted houses, and I like the Super Show right now. So
Maybe a Super Show haunted house.
Now we're talking about
we got some scary characters.
We're talking about haunted houses and stuff like that. Is haunted houses your tradition? I mean, for me, it was a family thing. I have to go to a haunted house every year.
No. So, when I was a kid, so at 8 years old, I started working in a haunted house. My local community had one. I got permission. My buddy's mom was the one that ran it. So I got to be, and I was the 8-year-old Freddy Krueger, the 8-year-old Jason.
Nice.
I don't know how anybody ever thought I was scary. But I thought I was. And then my mom grew up around it. My mom, like, she wanted the creative side to stay going. And then I got married, and my wife absolutely hates Halloween. She thinks she hates everything about it. If I walk upstairs with this mask on right now, she will tell me to leave. Like, that's the way that it works. So it's not as big in my house. Like, my kids love it because I've made it so that they can love it if they want to. But the ones that don't, I just, I take the mask off and put it on the shelf, and I'm dad every other minute. So
I took my girlfriend to her first haunted house this year, and she would be creeped out by your mask right now. She hates clowns instantly. Like,
oh, she's my favorite person then.
she seems real similar to your wife.
Okay. We have Neko once again asking, what is your funniest haunt scare story?
Yeah.
Guess how bad you make someone piss their pants.
Yeah, so actually, it's a combination of a piss the pants story, and I've never felt so awkward at the same time. So actually, this past season, I was in a room, a very small room, where I had a Jack in the Box that we used as a distraction, and I would come up from behind people and pop confetti-filled balloons. And I knew this lady was coming in. They had radioed through the walkie saying, "Hey, this is her name." So as I stepped out, I yelled her name. I popped the balloon. She peed herself, and then she walked over, and she was drunk as a skunk, and she tried to kiss me. And it was the best and worst story of the season.
Yeah, no. What in the world do you do?
I don't even know what to tell you, buddy.
Why did they even let her in that drunk?
So you just take a step back and you kind of put your arm on them, and you just, you got to be buddy because you don't want a bad review. And then as they leave, you go to the room before you and you tell people about it. And then I always came back for the final scare. I was always the actual like horror movie villain at the haunt. So I waited around the corner and I would get the last scare. And she actually left, came back, and was like, "I love you." And so I definitely have at least one fan out there somewhere.
Fair enough. Definitely an interesting fan.
Yes, my grandmother would be proud of me.
Oh my God. Any other fun scare stories before we continue with that?
We might as well ask.
I'm kind of curious now.
We had so my buddy, my clown partner Bobo, he we worked at a place, not this past season but the season before, actually 2 years ago. And the goal was we had a goal, which was to whoever could scare the other person would win $20. So the whole season we tried to do it. Neither of us were scared. The last night we're running through this pallet maze, and he was with another one of our friends, and I ran ahead of everybody and I got him. I scared him. He jumped back, but when he jumped back, I jumped forward and I didn't see a 3-inch screw that was sticking out of one of the pallets, and I ripped my arm open. And I didn't even realize it happened until I walked out and we went to go take pictures with a group, and this one girl looked at me and she was like, "Oh, that's really cool." And I was like, "What?" And I looked down and I was like, "Yeah, that's not fake." And she turned around and ralphed. That was pretty good.
Oh, but adrenaline only keeps you going for so long. That definitely must have hurt after a while.
Yeah, I mean, there's a small scar. I mean, but remember, I'm the guy that just for fun will light himself on fire. So.
Okay, so one more question before we go back to the audience. You mentioned your clown friend Bobo.
Yes.
Would there ever be a chance of us seeing Bobo and Split as a tag team?
Maybe on card. Maybe at some point. There's also potential plans in the works for the Carnage brothers, Eddie Fury and myself, and potentially a third person. But yeah, Bobo's not really a card player. I mean, really, he's not much of a clown these days. He's decided to become a biker. It's like the Undertaker going from the dead man to the biker. He went from the clown to the biker. So I'm not quite sure how that would translate, but I mean, there's always a possibility.
Fair enough. Also, Neko, thank you for the prime. That came out of nowhere. Okay, well, while I recover from this concussion, the Dark Prince has a question he would like to ask in here. So, go ahead, Mikey.
Oh, what's up there, Split?
What's up there, Dark Prince?
Not much, man. Not much. I got probably a couple questions to ask you. This is one of them. If you were heading to any type of company and you were going after a tag titles, who will you bring as a tag team partner, and which tag titles will you go after, and which company?
So I'm gonna stick with the WWE. I mean, if you make it to the top, stay at the top. I would like the Super Show tag titles. I mean, that would be fun. But if I'm going professional wrestling, it would be WWE, and I would take Eddie Fury with me. Believe it or not, Eddie has been my tag team mentor since we started. Although I did have that surprise D1 show up that one night, and that was probably my favorite tag team match so far.
Oh, nice, nice. And I got one more little simple question to ask you. If you and me had a chance and everything else, you say you like tag team and everything else, would you and the Dark Prince be able to go after the LFF tag team titles in the near future?
I have to tell you the truth there, Dark Prince. I think that the Clown has some unfinished business with the Dark Prince, the Nightmare King, whatever you want to call yourself today. I think that we have some unfinished business that we have to get through before we could ever even think about bridging that.
Okay, fair enough. Which we will have a little feud soon. We will. But thank you for answering my questions. And you guys, carry on.
Thank you, Mikey, for your
Thank you, buddy.
good
No
question.
problem.
Okay, I no longer just see chairs coming at me, so that's good. And never feel bad about giving me a Prime sub. I appreciate them all the time. That's why I take those headshots. But that brought back a question that we haven't even asked you. Split, when did you ever learn about wrestling or get interested in wrestling? Or is that part something that
So
you don't
this-
even care about?
No. So this is the story. This is probably going to be the best story that I could ever tell. Hopefully I don't get emotional over it, and this is like completely out of character at this point. So my grandfather was a professional wrestler. He wrestled for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation back before it was the WWE or WWF. Wrestled for Vince McMahon Sr., was really good friends with Bruno Sammartino. He was a tag team champion for a while with a group called the Sicilian Brothers. Wrestled against the likes of some of the some of the guys that were upcoming at the time. There was a character called Batman. He was one of my favorite. A couple of other indie guys, but he was actually inducted into the KSWA Hall of Fame. That's the local Keystone Wrestling Association in Pittsburgh. And then my non-official uncle was a professional wrestler at a small indie promotion too. So wrestling's been around my whole life. It meant a lot to me. I've always said that I wanted to wrestle one match, and it doesn't even have to be anything crazy, just enough to say that I did it. Mm-hmm. I actually am in the process of trying to make that happen. But yeah, so wrestling, it's still to this day, I play it, I watch it. Me and my kids wrestle. We rented a big blow up thing, and I let my kids do every Hurricane Rana flippy dippy doodah move you can think of to me. I've got videos of all of them. So wrestling is part of my life. My wife hates that too, which is the best part. Like everything I love, she's the complete opposite.
So wrestling is in your blood. That is awesome, because I did not.
Well, I actually tried at one point. I tried to start a GoFundMe, which was put him in the game, and everybody thought I meant the Clown, and I actually meant my grandfather. I want to get him in Super Show at some point. I think that would be really cool.
As loving as this community is, I would not doubt that your grandfather will one day be. You were gonna say something, Dustin?
I was gonna say I'm jealous of the kids getting inflatables. I had couches and beds and.
I'll have to send you some videos off air, Dustin. I think you'll get a kick out of me being hurt across the bouncy house.
I remember one time, not to get off subject, but my aunt and uncle were big wrestling fans, by the way. But I remember one time they picked up one of the couches. They were getting brand new ones, and literally as they picked it up, the whole body of it just fell flat. Where I jumped off of it, we had body slammed each other off of it. We destroyed so much furniture.
So, folks, we're winding down in the amount of time we have. If you have any additional questions that you'd like to ask Split, please get them in before we go into our last section of the show. Bambata asked, "Did you accidentally put yourself through a wall?"
Oh.
No, but
Ah.
again, so I did. I've never wall botched, but I have. Here's another Bobo story. Me and Bobo were cutting a promo for. I actually got into promos through e-fedding, and so me and Bobo were cutting a promo as a tag team for an e-fed, and we were holding up one of those Dollar Tree like baking pans, and we used to smash each other in the face with them. And so he picked it up and put it between me and him, and he bounced it off of our faces as fast as he could, and he actually gave me a concussion. So I've never gone through a wall, but I've definitely had my head smashed in a pan.
I just want to tell Bombata that's a cheap question, by the way, because I know why he's asking.
I assume it's at you, Dustin.
Yeah, I went through a wall with a GPS promo.
Well, I mean, you made a big impact there.
But I was the clown.
Split. We gotta see you go through something.
Hey, listen. I've been trying to set it up for a long time. I wanted TBG to take me out with a flaming kendo stick. I've gone to Time Bomb. I want him to put me through a table. I mean, I've tried to get people to do it, but none of my local guys are want to do it. So, maybe something crazy might happen at Grand Gathering if I can find the right people.
Oh well, that took away the next question. Will we see you at Grand Gathering, and what kind of shenanigans will we get out of you?
Well, shenanigans, I'm not so sure. I haven't decided that yet, but you will see me at Grand Gathering. Bought my ticket as soon as it went on sale. If everything goes the way it's supposed to, you'll see the Carnage Brothers in person.
Echo asked, if we meet in real life, will you take a height comparison photo? He is very short, by the way.
Neko, I'll do anything you ask me to do as long as it's legal.
That is a slippery slope with her.
I said as long as it's legal.
How tall are you, Split?
So I'm 6'1", depending on whether I feel tall that day or not.
Well, I'm like D1. I'm like 5'4".
That's all right, man. Short and wiry, those are the guys to worry about. Us big guys are just big.
But somehow, if you ever want to go through a wall, I do know a guy.
All right.
There we go. Return of I don't even want to say it. It's getting crazier and crazier by the day.
Oh, it'll be
National
crazy.
Pool, the Galactic Champion is here. Good to hear from you, buddy. So
I got some unfinished business with the friend too, so don't think I forgot about you, buddy. I got to sneak back into the buddy building like I did that one day.
If I can suggest something, don't let it be a tables match.
Oh, listen, I learned a long time ago. I got to play to my strengths.
It'll be a 3-hour nonstop lariat playoff.
it's because I keep on turning a little bit, I think. So thank you for letting me know that that's happening more often. Okay. So, while we have a minute, do you want to give anyone an idea of what you charge for making your mask and how to get in contact with you?
Okay, so mask making, it just depends. I mean, I can tell you that I'm in the process of doing a special sculpt for somebody in the community. It's gonna run them about $300 when it's all said and done, but it's gonna be theirs. There's only gonna be a handful of them that are made, and it's not gonna be you'll never see them in the Super Show other than to this in particular competitor. I can't release that information at this time, but sooner rather than later we should see that.
Okay.
And then but I mean I try to keep it at the level where people can afford it, because it's not about making money for me. It's about getting the product out there and having people do something and have things that they love. That's what this has always been about.
Oh. All right.
And you can get in touch with me through any of the Super Show means. Facebook is probably the easiest messenger. If you can't get in touch with me, get in touch with Schmidt, or any of those guys know how to get in touch with me and do on a regular basis. I'm happy to help us in any way I possibly can. Masks, costumes, my special coin stash, we still have those. Anything that I can do for people, I try to help out as much as I can. We've always got this guy laying around, so just reach out and touch a clown in all the appropriate ways. I promise.
Yeah.
I had to fix.
You definitely need to add a little bit of context there. All right. International Cool asks, Willow the dog or Huskus the cow? Might be a wolf. I don't know Willow.
I don't know. I would think that Willow sounds like a tree.
Exactly.
We could plant that in the middle of the buddy building and then burn it down. I think that would be fun.
I mean, it's already been burnt down once. It doesn't need to be burnt down.
No, okay. It hasn't been burnt down. It has not been burnt down by the clown, Chibi.
Okay, fair. Burnt down by the clown. Willow is a wolf. Good to know. Neko says, split for president. I don't know if that's more of a statement or a question. It's just one of those things that I find hard to believe.
No, we don't want the anarchy. Listen, we'll keep politics out of this. Split not for president, just split for being number one in your heart. That's all we want.
Creative Goon asks, who's your favorite freak show member?
Myself. I mean, don't get me wrong. Eddie Fury brought me into the freak show. Eddie Fury was one of the people that I idolized because of his ability to speak. I wanted to be like Eddie Fury, but I think at least on the microphone, the student may have surpassed the teacher.
Especially with him being so busy right now.
Excuses, Chibi.
Creative Goon says you're fired. Neko is very surprised at that answer, probably assuming that she is the best.
Hey, listen. The best thing about the freak show is, with the exception of the fact that the Mulligan's menagerie is run by the one and only Pat Mulligan, and without him there wouldn't be a freak show. I came into Super Show wanting to start my own faction called the Dark Carnival. So I mean that was something that I had planned. I had a t-shirt made for it and everything. So I mean the Dark Carnival just got absorbed into the freak show, and it just made my life much easier. I didn't have to go out and find people. Pat already had everybody situated.
I'm sorry. I hear Dark Carnival. I can only think of just one other group of clowns.
I understand, and I didn't. Can I tell you? I didn't realize that was what their thing was called.
Makes sense, but it's definitely one of those fun.
Yeah, no. I learned the hard way, and the funny thing is I'm not one of those types of people. So,
Pat pays us in peanut shells if we're lucky. Not even the peanuts, Pat. Why?
No,
you
man.
Gotta give them something.
I get circus peanuts. Those little orange ones that are fluffy.
Are disgusting.
That's why he pays me in them.
So we're in the last bit of time, and usually we like to keep this open for our guests to ask us questions. So if you have any questions for Dustin and then questions for me, by all means, please ask.
So I don't know. Chibi, what's been your favorite match? I mean, I haven't been around. I haven't seen a lot of your older work, but what was your favorite match of all time that you've been a part of?
I mean, I've had a lot of entertaining matches. One of the most recent ones definitely was the Creative Goon versus myself versus the champion at the time, Time Bomb Tim. Anytime you can hit a seat of power and they roll the 5, especially when it's caught on camera, makes for some good content. Actually, I think one of my favorite matches ever that is never going to be found because that video has been lost to time was definitely the Bob the Brain versus myself versus John Press 1T in a 1 a.m. in the morning triad match for first place in a very, very, very late tournament.
Man, how do you fit all those egos into one room at the same time?
Well, you really don't, because everyone else had to leave before they could even start the match. That match ended at like 3 o'clock in the morning, just because
Good
three
Lord.
of the greatest minds of the game trying to counterplay each other until I decided to just make chaos for everyone.
And that doesn't surprise me at all, Chibi. Now, Dustin, here's my question for you. So
Right.
after you said a 9-month layoff, right, where you kind of stepped away from the game, what's made you want to come back?
Man, okay, so the biggest thing in those 9 months, I was wanting to come back. Don't take it as, I know I sold my whole collection and stuff like that, but my heart like has always been in this community. Um, to be honest with you, coming back, it was actually for the people. And I say this as not just the game itself, but like I missed everybody. I literally did. And it was almost like a cutthroat just selling my collection, but at the time I wasn't in the right mind. I had went through some personal stuff I'm not going to get into, but um, my heart's always been into this community, and seeing it go go on 6 years now since I played, and seeing how it's just built up, and it is a family. Uh, I think it's one of my passions. I love, we were talking about promos and stuff like that. I love seeing people have fun, and I enjoy mainly seeing everybody and playing tournaments. And like I said, my whole comeback was just because I missed everybody.
Well,
I didn't
I'm
feel
glad
like myself.
I'm glad you're back, and I'm looking forward to making some sweet promos against you, my friend.
Oh, you want the OG split?
Let's do it.
Oh,
Let's dance.
Okay.
No,
That
no
match
walls though. We're gonna keep you away from the walls unless they're padded though.
I mean,
Yeah,
for a
no.
person that's in a straitjacket, that's usually where you find them.
That will be interesting. We'll have to have a match sometime.
But that is it for Tell Us About Yourself with Ron. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming onto the show. Dustin.
And I just
Thank
want to
you.
say,
Thank you
man,
guys for having me.
I just want to say, man, of course, I was talking to you. I didn't really know you. I've been hearing your name a whole lot, and then the split character come out. I said, yeah, I gotta get to know this dude. Our similarities. I've enjoyed this whole episode. I feel like we could just sit and just talk all day about like scary stuff. I love it.
Probably happening.
Hey.
And
Okay.
but
And what do we have up for next week?
all right, next week's episode. He asked me last week, and of course, I want whoever wants to be on the show is always welcome. Next week's episode is going to be Mikey. The Dark Prince is going to be on our show, and also I'm not gonna really spoil it, but upcoming shows I plan on having like independent wrestlers, people that are actually in the Super Show, like on the independent scenes. Um, I'm gonna try to grind and get us like independent wrestlers, not just guests. Anybody is welcome on the show. Always hit me up if you want to be on it. I don't care if you played a day or you've been here since the game started. I love to. That's what this show is all about. It's tell us about yourself. And I didn't know Ron or Split that much, but hey, I've truly got to know you this episode, and I've enjoyed it. So always hit me up, folks.
So next week we have the Dark Prince himself, Mikey Nichols. And until then, can I get a bye, man?
Bye, man.
Until next time.